Death, the thing every living being spend their whole lives avoiding, but also what happens to all of us in the end. The final fate. No matter how powerful, no matter how mighty, even the so-called immortal jellyfish is not immune to death. Even our favorite fictional characters are not immune to death. Some of the greatest of them have succumbed to its power. Hello investigators, and welcome back to another investigation. This one we will be investigating the death of one particular character, Bayonetta. Cereza, that's her birth name is. For at the end of Bayonetta 3, she died. Her summon, Gamora, knocked the sword right out of her body, and that was that. Went to Inferno, the fate of all witches who pass from this world, per the terms of their contract with Inferno. Gain great power, but will go to literal hell when they die. However, something always seemed off. As powerful and resourceful as Bayonetta was, how did she succumb to death like that? That was portrayed as she was exhausted, tired from her final confrontation with Singularity, as we saw the demon slave mark upon her back, disappearing at the end of that boss fight, and thus the loss of control of Gamora. But I'm not so convinced. There had to have been something, anything she could have done. So today we will be investigating, could she have lived? Now without further ado, let us begin this investigation. First thing is first, let us start with the elephant in the room. When it comes to certain consumables, I will not be taking them into account, so Red Hot Shot is immediately out. That is for gameplay purposes. We have not seen heads or tails of it in cutscenes, so to go and say that it is something that she could have used if she had one on hand is, no, it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. She did have one on hand in the actual cutscene. She could have used it to save herself from her untimely demise. But speaking of items, the ones I will say that she could have used are the lollipops. I was saying, but you just said you're not going to use those kind of consumables. I'm using Red Hot Shot because she didn't show using it. That was pure gameplay. Actually, the second chance. But the lollipops in the cutscenes, she's seen using it, eating them. And in the first game only, in the cutscene, if you were to push the corresponding button, you could apply the effect of said lollipop in the actual gameplay. That says to me that these lollipops can be used. These are canon and their effects are in the actual world. Let us start with, what does she have a form of healing factor? We see in various points she takes a substantial amount of damage and just gets back up and continue fighting. Is that due to her raw durability, that she can just take whatever the boss has to dish out and keep going? Perhaps. But we see in her Umbran climax in Bayonetta 2 that when she enters it, she actually does begin to heal a little bit. But as gameplay, the story, connection, story, implication that she has some kind of healing factor. And there is some small amount of evidence to support this. Most notably in Bayonetta 3, when the Strider impaled her upon his claws. She seemed A, completely fine, and B, immediately after she backed off, healed from that and continued fighting as if nothing happened at all. And then we have the Deadly Sin ritual. A ritual in where Bayonetta physically rips out her own heart to use its magic-rich blood to enhance and power her demons to their true form or some kind of enhanced state. And then she puts it back as if nothing happened. For the most part, we do see that when it's out, there is visible strain or some kind of duress with her. Understandable, her heart is literally gone. But when she puts it back, everything seems fine. Everything's hunky-dory. She does this multiple times throughout the entirety of the game. So to say she has nothing to recover from this kind of damage is evidently just not true. She certainly can. But does she have a healing factor, as it were? Well, from what I can observe, everything I know, it's much less a healing factor, more like a healing spell. Like, she can tank that kind of damage if she has to and keep functioning. Again, she lost her heart. Like, if that heart were to be destroyed, she could function without it and potentially use the same kind of magic to restore it, but it's more like an active spell more so than passive regeneration. So I'm going to say that she probably doesn't actually have regeneration, but she has a healing spell which she can do very quickly that is comparable. So I do believe that would be out, because again, she was truly exhausted at the end of her fight. She may not have had the magic needed to use the spell to heal herself to a point where Gamora couldn't just destroy her body, knock her soul out of it. Now, speaking of magic regeneration, let us talk items. Yes, the lollipops. Why are they up the lollipops? They are just for gameplay purposes, are they not? Yes, you are correct, but we see them also in the cutscenes. Most notably, the Bloody Rose lollipop, the one that offers her increased attack power. We've seen that multiple times, at least in Bayonetta 1. We saw that. Also set in the journal Echoes in Bayonetta 2, entry 001, Luca makes a comment about their alchemy. The alchemy system we see in Bayonetta, which makes with the lollipops to begin with, so there is more evidence to support that the lollipops are more than just items in the game. But that means there is precedent to say that these also still have some kind of effect. Maybe he just likes the lollipops, hence Luca's comment about addicting toddlers to lollipops, which once you think about it, Luca is the reason Bayonetta has a fixation on lollipops. But I digress. But why bring up lollipops? You mean the green herb lollipop, the one that heals her? Well, there's that too, but most notably the purple magic lollipop, the purple butterfly lollipop. Why? That one restores magic and a large sum of it. So if you take one, it could restore her magic enough for her to use her healing arts on herself to heal the damage, or get back the demon slave on Gamora, avoiding the horrible tragedy that happened in the first place, or use the green herb lollipop to heal her injuries, allowing her to avoid the damage altogether till she restores enough of her magic to be able to enact the demon slave or unsummon it, or the half moon or full moon lollipops to bolster her defense so that even if it did hurt her, it wouldn't have been so detrimental. Also, I just wanted to say you can craft these in the game. They have different lollipops, but I don't think she had the necessary time to go and make them. I don't think that Singularity was going to wait there while she mixed everything together to get some purple butterflies and some green herb lollipops so that she get enough power to effortlessly stomp them. I don't think he was going to wait that long. Since we're talking about candy, talk about friends, because what's better than just candy by itself? Candy with friends. Let's be on to for a second. This is going to be real brief. The only friend she had she could have done something was Jean, and Jean died. We saw that. Everyone witnessed it. Got impaled, stabbed in the back. She's roughly the same strength as Bayonetta. She could have been a massive help, but she was dead. Luca came later on. He was really late, so by the time he got there, it was kind of too late to really make the difference that she needed to in the beginning, and Viola only did something at the end. But until that point, there was one really who could have helped her. Enzo's way too weak, and Boulder was long dead. All the Umber witches are dead. Avery Lumen Sage is dead from Bayonetta's verse, so there wasn't really anyone she could have called upon for any help. There's no one. So again, really short section, no one to come for help. That was the whole point of killing Jean, to make sure that there wasn't some cheeky way that Jean could show up and be like, yeah, let's ice this Debbie together. And since there was no one to help her, that's the reason why she couldn't summon an entity like Queen Sheba or Omni. Like Queen Sheba, she could have summoned Queen Sheba herself, the controller or ruler of Inferno, an equal, a opposite to Jubileus when at full power. And I do not think at all there's evidence to suggest that she had enough power to put Queen Sheba in her like demon slave. I do think she can summon Queen Sheba, because in Bayonetta 2 we saw her do that same thing to merge it with Jubileus to get Omni control of creation, but we can't summon her either because there was no Lumen Sage to summon Jubileus. Again, just everything's saying she's alone. She can't just rely on this. She's strong enough right now to summon Queen Sheba. Why didn't she try summoning Queen Sheba in the beginning just to ice this? That is beyond me. Could we saw she had the power to do so. Again, their multiverse is collapsing. The trinity of creation is falling apart. You would think that, you know what, Queen Sheba wouldn't mind being summoned. Like, yo, get me in here. I'm the biggest, baddest demon here. Let me help you ice this deadbeat so we can not have the trinity of existence collapse around us. So again, why she didn't on either party's part, that is a mystery for another day. Since we're on the subject of summons, let us talk about the subject of summons, because of the quotes of the Bayonetta series, she summons a lot of demons. A lot of them are repeats, but some of them are new. But one of them comes up in every single game, and it's the one that is also responsible for her death. That's right, you know him, you love him, he sounds like an elephant. He's my personal favorite non-humanoid summon, Gamora. The inciting incident that was, again, foreshadowed in Bayonetta 2, they let this dog off the leash. He will bite you, he will attack you, he will retaliate, he does not like you, you are forcing him into this situation he doesn't want to be in, and he wants you to stop doing that to him. But for the according to the contract, he will at least listen to you so long as the contract seals and powers and balances are all in place. To those away, we saw in Bayonetta 2, immediately turned on Bayonetta, which is what's out the entire plot of Bayonetta 2, and going to Nostrum or whatever the crap it's called in Italy to get John's soul back into her body. We saw at the end of Bayonetta 3, soon as her power to restrain him was gone, he turned on her, destroyed her body, and that was that. Then it got desummoned. Although, if you look at the beginning of Phrase and the Lost Demon, a demon without the hair medium all but immediately vanishes, because demons are spirits. Well, it isn't explicitly said that they are spirits, but it's kind of the general vibe that you get there in non-human supernatural entities. They turn to ash soon after entering our world if they do not have a medium, a physical medium, a connection to this world to maintain themselves. But with Gamora at the end of it, that just kind of sort of didn't happen. Luca had to come along and slit its throat to send it back. Which, if you go by the time frames raised on Lost Demon, from then to now, Gamora would have been shrimped back into Inferno before he could finish his assault on Bayonetta. Why was that done? Well, they wanted the ending to happen, to have her body be destroyed and whatnot, so they could have her be Inferno to make way for the next generation in Viola. But I digress. Since we're on the topic of summons, what other summons could she have called forth that would not have done that? Now, I'm not going to talk about every single summon that could possibly have been at that point in time. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to sit here for another 40 minutes reading all these descriptions, but I will name a few that she could have summoned in that moment in time. I think the reason she summoned because Gamora is very powerful. She needed power. She wanted to get through his final wards. You needed it over with. You didn't want to leave anything to chance. Let's go with the strongest ones that are reasonable to find. However, I will be omitting Madame Butterfly from this. The reason being, he was just in a bunch of the fights, I mean, almost exclusively used by Bayonetta for pretty much the entirety of the fight, all but canonically, because she keeps turning into the demonic masquerade. That's with the gun, the white weapon you equipped being. And more importantly than the effective gameplay mechanic is she just did a bunch of stuff with Madame Butterfly with the other three Bayonettas. Maybe she's out of gas right now. She's tired, did a bunch of stuff. We saw her and Gamora, or at least are relative to one another in strength. We saw with the whole combined energy wave attack they did against the first phase in the final boss fight. But again, gassed. I need power. Madame Butterfly's not an option right now because she's also potentially gassed. Maybe she, again, when they get split in half, when they die, they take a minute for them to come back. Maybe she's still reconstituting. He's chomping at the bit to come back and help her out because Madame Butterfly, as we saw in Bayonetta 2, even without the contract bonds making her do this, because that is what happened with the contract of Inferno and the Demon Slave most notably, maybe she just physically couldn't. She's coming up to come back, but couldn't come back in enough time for it to matter. So Bayonetta's like, well, okay, next summon, Gamora, immediately goes to Gamora. The first one I'm going to bring up is near and dear to my heart, since I personally like this demon law. We never see it fully manifested, but I personally like it a lot, and it is Hekatonshir. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And it is a giant endowed with 6 powerful arms, capable of crushing mountains, can cause earthquakes for days, and even the most powerful conjurers should take heed when summoning this demon. So my thing is, why didn't summon this guy? There's no indication that it's as unruly or as violent as Gamora. Just do those 6 arms, some violent mountain earthquake smashing stuff, have him flattened, have Viola do the final stab, go home, GG's. Why not just summon him instead? And the weapon it's tied with is Takemi Kazuchi, which Rodan made by taking the actual weapon of the actual Shinto Kami god, breaking it down, turning it into a hammer, because it is taste more, so the associations with divine power there. From what I understand, that seems like a pretty good and a lot safer bet to use. At least get that summon, because I don't know if she has a hammer on her. I don't know if she can just something like a hammer space you can reel into. Everything indicates that she doesn't, or maybe her hammer space was just couldn't fit the hammer in there because it's a rather large hammer. Why not just get out the giant 6-armed giant and just crush him without having to risk Gamora's rampages? Or if that one's your fancy, why not summon Hydra? And I mean, sure, its description doesn't really give much into its power, but if you look at the actual game, it's fighting one of the Auditio, one of the aspects of divine will itself, Sepentia. And if that isn't strong enough to get through this very weakened singularity, then I don't know what would be, quite frankly. Because we see Gamora was also put on this kind of pedestal as really one of the high-class strong demons, so why not summon Hydra instead? Again, it has no indication that it's that level of like going to go on a rampage, that berserking. Why not summon Hydra instead of Gamora? One, you know, if you take him out the leash, is going to attack you. You know how tired you're getting, you know what's about to happen if you lose Demon Slave. At the very least, it's a really big bet. But that was the whole point of that scene, this really large gamble. He's tired, but she has to end it now. This is the first thing she summons. It's really strong, Gamora. But why not summon Hydra instead? And speaking of equivalents to Gamora, why not summon La Bolas, which appeared even in Bayonetta 3. We see that Bayonetta 2, when she lost control of Gamora, she summoned La Bolas instead, which seemed to be roughly on Gamora's level in terms of power. At the very least, it was a close enough, which she could with using it. So why not just summon him instead? It's a safer bet, does the thing. We saw him earlier, is effectiveness in combat against singularity. So why not have him literally turn into multiple different demon dog things, jump him, tear him to pieces? Why not have that instead of summoning Gamora? Why not do that instead? You know, it's a safer bet. It makes a lot of sense, especially given Gamora's history. Or why not Skull of Pendra? I mean, it's yeah, it's just a giant centipede that looks kind of creepy and whatnot, but A, it's our demon, it's kind of the point, but B, we see it in the Justitia boss fight in Bayonetta 1. She's summoned there to finish off a high level angel, the high level angel that we're fighting against the boss. Repeat freaking like I just said it. Find summon instead. So big it is. Crush him, wrap him up, munch on him. Something get through his barrier. Again, lend him your power, whatever you're going to do to him. Have that be that, and just finish him. No need to summon Gamora. Its disposition didn't seem to be half as bad as Gamora's. Why not summon him instead? Also, and lastly, I think with Multiversal Collapse and how he speaks of the balance of the three worlds, why not call Rodan for help? See? Why I put him here in the Infernal Demons? You can actually obtain him as a Infernal Demon in Bayonetta 3 instead of putting him in the friend section. So I put him here. Like, I get it. I do. Because if we look at everything that we know about Rodan, he's looking to die. So perhaps he could have helped but chose not to, because he's like, well, if everything goes, I finally get to die. And if not, I continue my business. Once you think about it, it's kind of a win-win for Rodan no matter what. If she loses, everything ends, he dies. If he wins, he gets to continue his business and do whatever the crap he's going to do for eternity. So I get why he didn't help, but at least asking would make sense. But I understand why she wouldn't have called upon him, and I doubt he would have responded. Although he didn't seem too keen on the idea of multiversal collapse in Bayonetta 3. So I'm going to put forth the idea that maybe he's more open to helping Bayonetta in this instance than even his own want to die can really suppress, because he wants to die. He doesn't want everything else to die. That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I don't think he's about that. Now, with all that being said, in conclusion, to answer the question, could she have lived? The answer is, taking all these factors into account, yes, she could have lived. Rodan helped, could have lived. Summoned any other Infernal Demon, she could have lived. The life hops truly do affect the canon as we think it does, thanks to the cutscenes and what Luca was writing about in his journal entries in Bayonetta 2. If she could take some of those, then yes. She could have rejuvenated herself, gotten back into the fight, and not have to worry about Gamora's rampage, because she could have dodged, or just would have been like, nah, I'm not doing this right now. So why didn't she? Plot. Pure and simple, the plot. The plot said no. The plot needed her to die, so she died. The plot said, no, we kind of need you out of the way so Viola can take the shine. And on this note, I will say Devil May Cry 5 did it better, in that they didn't kill off Dante or Virgil, they just put them in a position where they couldn't just come back. But going at the end of Devil May Cry 5 down into the base of the Clipot to cut it out there, sealing themselves in the demon world, unable to return, they made it so that they're alive with the potentiality for them to come back. If you want to do something with them later, they can. Just put them off to the freaking side over here for a bit, but for Nero to take the shine as he's the new generation now. Didn't do that with Bayonetta. They just said, die, be out of the picture, go be with your wolf husband in Inferno. That was it. But with all that being said, that brings an end to this investigation. I'll thank you once more, investigators, for joining me on this, and have a nice evening.